Good morning all. Today is a new learning process that we're going to put chocks instead of the scarf joints on the square frames. The first thing we need to do is to print out 3 copies of each frame, 2 to make up the parts and 1 to put on my little assembly board. And you really need to spend time writing all the instructions and understanding each frame. I got an email the other day asking me how do you print frames that are 100% accurate on a printer. I'll just go through it quickly so you get an idea of what's involved. I have a HP 2545 and an iMac, which is the workhorse of my computing division, supplemented of course by my iPad, which this is being filmed on. Greg sent me the frames in an email. So the first thing we do is we're going to blow up one. So we double click on it and up it comes. And then we'll go and tell it to print. And when it comes up, you'll see that the scale, you need to put it to scale, and you'll see here on this particular one it's 132%. So we need to change that to 100%. We want 1 copy in this case, and then we just send it to print. And that's how we get scale drawings. And of course you have the line here, 5 inches, both horizontal and vertical, which you can check afterwards to make sure that your printer is printing correctly. And there she is. And I just put this just to show you that it is accurate. And just to clarify a point that sometimes has made me think, the dotted line on the inside, or the gray line is referred to, is really the amount that you're going to taper the frame, and you're not meant to actually cut to that line when you're making up the frame. That just shows you the extent of the taper. Now that we've printed all the paper templates, it's just a matter of cutting them out and then pasting them onto the various thicknesses of timber. I find the best way to do this is put the television on some show that's really not too exciting, and simply cut out pieces as we go along. I have 3 glasses, 10, 9.5 and 9, so I put them, the different thickness pieces, into the various glasses. It takes me around 4 minutes to do each one, so for the five sets of frames, roughly an hour, just short of an hour to cut. All the pieces are stuck onto the various thicknesses of wood. So here we go, the challenge is about to start. So the first thing we do is just line up the pieces just to get a feel. The bottom pieces on the cross chock, this is the forward, will be relatively the same as we've done in the past. So these will be no problem. Then what we're going to do is draw out the chocks. So that's relatively simple. And then the aft will be a little more challenging. Oops. And we're going to follow the same sequence we did. We'll pin the floor to the bottom, and then go to our stockpile of different size pieces that we've left over from cutting out the frames, and start to cut the chocks. Then we'll fit the chock starting at the bottom and moving up to the timber heads. To determine the size of the chocks, we'll use the thicker section. The floor is made of 10-inch stock, the first footlock of 9.5 and the top timber of 9. So in this case, for this chock, we'll use the bigger size, which is 10-inch for the chock here. Between the top timber and the first footlock, we're going to use a 9.5-inch chock, because remember, these things we are fairing this from the floor towards the top timber. So we line it up very carefully and then drill the pin in. I can see we're going to have to make up a few more dowels. Although I have to say the dowel stock lasted quite well. Before I pin the first footlock, as I try to line them up, I realize that the two surfaces are not lining up perfectly. So I'm going to want to get this join as tight as I can get it. So I'm going to do a little sanding, and then I'll drill the pins to hold the first footlock in. The way to get these two to line up, we use a flat chisel, grinding surface on both sides. We put it between the two. We have this pin so it doesn't move, and we hold this one in place, push them towards each other, and then simply keep pushing them towards each other and lightly sand it. And what you're going to find is you will get these two surfaces lining up correctly. Now we've got it lined up. We put the pins in. This one lined up perfectly. So we can only hope we have more like this. Perfectly done. The next thing we're going to do, just so that we know what we're doing, is we're going to draw out the chocks, and I use a very fine point pencil to do this. And this is going to show us if we have any issues, because I can see we have one here already. So we're going to deal with this with a chisel. Simply cut this line down so that the two join right at this point. That's all repaired now, and we can start making the chocks. And you'll remember the advice that we got early on to keep all those pieces left over. And because they would get mixed up, you'll see that I have marked them all. So I have lots of stock here to make the chocks up from. And we've sorted them into our containers, 9, 9.5, and 10. And from this we'll cherry pick as we go along. You may remember my little chock template. Well, it's really going to come in very useful now. There are 5 different sizes of chocks, so I can line them up and decide on the size of chock I'm going to make. And also these chocks were made up from this template, so I should be able to get fairly accurate chocks made. The length of the chocks vary, but most seem to be around 2 feet in length. And if you look at the book itself, you will see a slight variation, and in terms of the thickness, it will depend where the chock is located in relation to the size of the frame, and that does vary quite a bit. We'll take this out on the bandsaw and see how it fits. And we need to cut on the outside of the template lines. I make no apology for cutting flat or square chocks. This angle chock is far too difficult for my skill level at this point in time. Maybe sometime in the future. We've got it to fit one side, and that's a nice tight fit. Now we'll try the other side. And we've got a nice tight fit there. So we'll make up the second one, and then I think what I'm going to do is stick these two just to make sure that this is fixed. And this one, for whatever reason, is closer to this one here. Second one in, and fairly happy with that. So we're going to stick these two up. In terms of the final adjustments, I have found that all three, the sanding board, the pen sander, and of course the chisel, you'll end up using all of them, and as to which one you use to make the final fit really depends on you. I tend to find that the pen sander has been very useful because the final adjustment of the chock is really taking off 1/1000th of an inch, and this is the most gentle and also I find the most accurate to keep whatever the cut angle is that you're trying to maintain. Let's take it out and have a look at what we've done. This this frame took easily 3 to 4 hours to do. So we're certainly going to have to find a way to be a little more productive. Otherwise we'll be here for a few years making frames. If you'd asked me to make a chocked frame 3 months ago, I would have said you were a crazy person. And I've just done one that is, I think even David and Greg would feel proud of this one. So all we have to do now is to find a way to do this in a more productive manner, and I'm sure as I sit down I will get faster and quicker at doing them, and so the rest of my square frames will be fully chocked.